Today's episode of Pastor with No Answers is sponsored by the band Wild Earth. They just released a brand new album called Holy Fools, and we've had the pleasure of sharing a few tracks with you over the past couple of weeks. Let's check out one more of these tracks, and this one is called Of Peace.
Where there's destruction, may we plant life. Where there is sadness, let our joy rise. Where there's injustice, will we take a stand? Where there is hunger, open our hands. Make us instruments of peace. Make us instruments of peace. For it's in giving we receive. Make us instruments of peace, of peace.
Yes, that song is called Of Peace by Wild Earth. You should know all about them by now, but if you don't, you need to pick up their brand new album titled Holy Fools. You can get it on iTunes or listen to the record on Apple Music or Spotify. Make sure you visit wildearthmusic.com to keep up with any news or tour dates. Again, that was Of Peace off of Wild Earth's new record, Holy Fools. Thanks again to Wild Earth for sponsoring the last 3 episodes of Pastor with No Answers. I've enjoyed this opportunity to show my listeners these songs, and I hope you'll all go and support this great band.
For it's in giving we receive. Make us instruments.
All right, you're listening to the Pastor with No Answers, and we're with Levi the Poet, and you've got a little new project going. I don't even know if you call it a project. I'm just curious, kind of what's the thought process behind it. I know that it's not like this crazy in-depth. The Lord slain you in the spirit and gave you a vision about Kendrick Lamar or anything. But here's what's crazy though. A few things. I've got 2 friends, Toby one of them, that's not as big. I mean, not even. I'm huge into hip hop. I mean, it's just I listen at least half of the time I'm listening to rap, and Toby not even close. And then the other guy, my friend Andy, I mean, just not even close. I mean, he's Elliott Smith and Pedro the Lion, and just never got into hip hop. Both of these guys
needs to be more ecumenical in his approach to music.
Yeah, totally. But both of these guys, man, said it exactly the same way. They asked me, "Are you listening to the new Kendrick?" I was like, "Of course." And they said, "We Toby said this and Andy said this. I'm kind of obsessed with it."
Oh wow!
Like
you really did it then.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's something. There's so much hype about it, and there's so much talk about Kendrick Lamar. If you're into music just in general, you got to listen to it. Like, I seriously, I heard so much stuff about the new Taylor Swift. I guess it's called 1989. I was like, I got to listen to it. And you know what? I respect it. I'm like, this is good stuff. I mean, who can say this is not pop genius? So it's there. I don't know what it is about Kendrick Lamar. And then I'm curious if you know anything behind the scenes, what I've heard, because I think when you're the father of 4 and pastoring a church and recording podcasts and want to have a relationship with your wife, you don't really have the luxury of really knowing in depth behind the scenes about every artist you listen to and those sort of, I mean, there's a lot of artists.
Spend hours on chat forums
anymore or what? Right, totally. Like, there's so many artists I listen to. I have no clue. I don't know where they're from. I just don't know a thing. But I have heard about Kendrick Lamar, and I don't remember where I heard this.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was actually interviewing. So we did a couple of hip hop episodes on Pastor with No Answers, and so one of these guys, I think, had this background info that he definitely is committed to his girlfriend. So
Yep.
he's not on the road sleeping with a bunch of people.
Right.
I want to say that he does not. This is where I'm really speculating, but I'm pretty sure I was told that he does not have like a crazy party life. That he's a pretty
Sure.
simplistic living
Yeah.
kind of guy, and is not always out there being crazy, doing drugs and that sort of thing. So there is some legitimacy to the person that you hear on albums. And like, for example, if you've listened to some of his stuff and been like, whoa, what are you even talking about? This dude is horrible. A lot of his lyrics is telling a story. It's not like, hey, this is me. I want my dick to be the size of the Eiffel Tower so I think F the world for 24 hours or something like that. But
72.
72, that's right. 3 days.
hours. Yeah.
My V.
Yeah.
So what should tell people a little bit about your little project that you're doing?
Well, okay. So, I mean, it was kind of random. A friend called me. He invited me to go to Coachella with him and his son.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. I've never been to Coachella before, and I don't really know anything about it other than that it's Coachella, and Kendrick was going to be there, and that was the most exciting thing ever to me.
Heck yeah.
So I said yes, and then a little while later called me back and was like, hey, did you listen to the new album? Like, he keeps on saying this, like, ain't nobody praying for me thing that's
Right.
going throughout it. Like, you have any thoughts on that? I'm thinking about bringing some shirts to Coachella that just say praying for Kendrick on them.
Right.
And, if you want to write something about it, then you should write something about it. So I wrote something about it, and we just put it up as a blog that was attached to this site and just kind of shared some thoughts about Kendrick. I had every year at the end of the year, I do this like top 10 albums list or whatever, just through my own site. And so I had, sent, I wasn't like I'm not like an OG Kendrick fan. Like I didn't even listen to Good Kid, Mad City whenever it first came out.
Right.
I heard Drank, thought it was just another dumb song, and didn't want to listen to it. My wife freaking loved it. All she listens to is like some ignorant rap. And I'm not saying Kendrick's that, but she's it's always funny to me. But
Right.
so she always gives me crap. She's like, "Oh, you're talking about Kendrick now. Well, just you remember who got you into Kendrick." But So anyway, but we were just like, I was like, okay, and so he had made his way onto those lists, my exclusive lists and all that. But he just, I don't know, like I loved it more and more, and I really got into it whenever To Pimp a Butterfly came out.
Yeah.
And I remember when that album dropped and listening to it. I had been following some people that were really excited about it, and so finally just decided to give it a shot and just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even really tell you why. Like, I knew as a word person that lyrically there was something that was incredible that I was just attracted to. He's fantastic at what he does, and linguistically some of the stuff that he does is amazing. So anyway, I just really loved it. And then when I started paying more attention to what he was trying to do, like you said, to the fact that Good Kid, Mad City was this story, and that it was like this linear narrative that had movement and direction and not just an assembly of songs. And then To Pimp came out, and reading all of the political commentary stuff on it, all of the people who were writing, talking about, what he was saying about God here, what he was saying about race there, and so for me, like, at that point in time, and it's funny, I mean, so here's the devil's advocate in me.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Let's listen to two white guys talk about Kendrick Lamar on Past with No Answers. Why don't you guys tell us what you think about Kendrick? But it is kind of funny, like. But
it's all good. It's all good. I mean, we're.
I know, but it was the same time, like, it was. I never really knew exactly how to describe it because I still can't wrap my mind around that experience. But it was educational to me as well. I mean, there's just so much stuff that has come out over the last, or not has come out, but just that has maybe come to the forefront, or maybe I should just personalize it more and say, my eyes open to things that I just didn't have any sort of framework for in the past, and Kendrick was kind of a part of that.
Right.
And there is really, I think, something to you saying, man, I've got these two guys that absolutely loathe hip hop that are super into this new record. I mean, it's incredible when an artist is able to cross lines like that, and somehow he's done it. So
because and you know, Toby definitely doesn't hate hip hop. He just doesn't listen to it a whole lot. But it's like, it's because there's something deeper than just the music, and I think that's the case with any musician. If they can do that, whatever that is, if they can go deeper to where it's just like, for me, that's what Dave Bazan does. Like every when I heard Hard to Find a Friend, I mean, obviously this is, my gosh, 19 years ago. Some of the songs were probably written more than 20 years ago. I was like, I don't know how to put this in words, but I'm not just listening to music. Like there is something going on there. And what's nuts is it even crosses spiritual lines, because here you have the same guy who's still writing music. I feel the same way about it, and he's not even a Christian. So it wasn't just the spiritual stuff that my spirit resonated with. It's also the stuff where I'm like, well, that sucks. I wish he was still a Christian, you know?
Yeah. Gosh, I love. And there's a degree to which it's kind of, I mean, I don't know if you can put both artists like that in the same sort of category, but it's amazing when
I know Dave Bazan wishes he was in the bank account category.
That's definitely true. He should be out on this next run with him instead of Goosebumps guy, whatever his name is. But it's amazing when you hear something that is so. I mean, there's a lot of artists that resonate with, but it's just so deeply resonant for some reason, and that like you haven't. I don't know. At least as far as Kendrick stuff goes, like I haven't gone through any of that, you know, like I am probably just the epitome of the opposite of that. But there are these things that like resound or like create longing. And so I don't know. It's just amazing. I just think that it is really good. I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, but I just have appreciated it, So anyway, and I've written about him in different places, not just with like, some there, but I just have enjoyed it. I feel like, I feel like To Pimp a Butterfly was like the soundtrack to the year that it came out.
Yeah.
There was so much, there's so many, and that's part of it too, right? There's all this nostalgia attached to stuff you love. And so that came out. My friends Donovan, I think, or I don't know if you do or not, but a friend of mine here in Albuquerque that some of the other dudes up there know, and another like we all would just listen to that record. I mean, I've got memories of us, dancing in the green room to King Kunta right before the service started, and just like losing your mind.
Oh yeah.
Doing all these cross-country trips and doing all this stuff and having all of these discussions about it and feeling, and then, like I said, also feeling like I just learned so much, whether it was through him directly or through other people picking it apart and explaining certain things and then talking about why it matters. And it was just good. So then when Damn came out, it was just like, well, hell yeah, I'm already on board, you know, and it's great.
Totally. Yeah, that's a good point that you made. And I've thought about it, but I don't think I've ever communicated it publicly, is just how much of a learning experience hip-hop is, especially for white people. Totally. And sure, there are some white people that grow up in parts of the city that rappers are rapping about, but for the most part, we can't relate to the survival aspect of needing to join a gang, for crying out loud, or recognizing if I don't make money, then my family may lose the house. So I know selling drugs you can get paid a lot of money. And none of those statements are meant to dismiss like the negative impacts that has on people's lives. But if you are so narrow-minded to not even try and be with someone where they're at and understand, and I think the biggest thing for me, and I'm really going to sound like a white idiot right now, but the biggest thing for
Let's
me...
just acknowledge that we're both white idiots and then continue
Yeah,
boldly.
totally. Yeah, we are making that acknowledgement. But I think for me, like I just, people have heard me say this before. I mean, I was so Republican and conservative that the election in 2004, so this was Bush up for re-election running against John Kerry, I literally would have been devastated if he didn't win. I mean, it was like being a Republican and being a Christian was so mixed with, was so intertwined, and I love George Bush, and that was a huge part of my life. So that's where I was. So obviously, back in the day when I heard rappers, talk about drugs being something that were possibly brought into the country to keep black people down and to put them in jail. I mean, I was just like, that is ludicrous. Whereas now, taking a deeper look and watching documentaries and hearing like Kanye West go on and on and on about it, and obviously I don't buy into everything Kanye West says. I love his music, but it's like, oh, wait a second. Some of the stuff that he's saying, it's right, or at the very least worth thinking through and figuring out for yourself. This isn't just liberal bullshit to dismiss and say, this is just not right. I mean, and I'm embarrassed to say that there was a point in my life where I was just like, this is garbage. I like the rap music, but I certainly don't like what they're saying,
Sure.
And I mean, because I'm the same guy that this time 17 years ago, I thought that racism was something that we had kind of moved beyond outside of little things here and there. And now I realize 17 years later, we're like in the thick and thin of it. It's just not politically correct. So that's maybe some progress. But as far as the actual racism that exists, I mean, we're not in a great place.
Sure. Well, and I appreciate too I think there's that, whether it's an artist, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, I love, I've enjoyed art and conversation more and more as it works to challenge the notions that you already have.
Yeah.
And I think that, honestly, just that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy what Bad Christian does, because it's just blunt and that's what it is and that's what it's going to be.
Right.
I appreciate that. Like I love the Geraldo jabs that Kendrick put into the new thing where he's like talking about, oh yeah, I don't like violence or whatever. I appreciate it. And obviously, that's more than just something for a person to giggle at. That's like a real issue and a type of ignorance like what you're talking about. But I like it when I like the poke, I like the challenges that people put forward. And I feel like he does a good job of doing that in a way that makes, obviously there are a lot of people paying attention to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. Well, hey, I'm gonna get this episode to be like the highest rated, highest listened episode ever. I'm gonna title it Levi McAllister and Kendrick Lamar. Perfect.
That's great. Yeah. Tour 2018. That's what I'm going for, man.